Welcome to the Basic Bee podcast, a show for the wannabe SEO savvy service providers among us, for the coaches and consultants who dream of becoming known for their storytelling skills, not to mention the solopreneurs who straight up need to master all things social proof to increase sales. After a little reluctantly fully committing to this online world of business, I quickly realized I needed to get people to come to me. I needed to tell them I was here and how I could support them. I dove headfirst into social proof, which led me to SEO, which led me to storytelling. And now it gives me great joy to share what I've learned with other business owners so they skip the hard stuff and ease straight into sales. This podcast gives you expert insights, actionable takeaways, and casual convos with some of the online world's best and brightest experts and strategists. I think that's enough of an intro, so here we go. Welcome back to the Basic Bee podcast, and thanks for joining, whether you're watching on YouTube or tuning in from your favorite podcast player. I'm so thrilled to have you here. And today I get to be joined by Samantha Mabe. We're going to be talking about sitemaps, as well as, these two are totally not related, as well as things that we've seen in this online world that we don't really like. And we want to share some tips with you to help you avoid running into these negative situations. But first, quick intro. Samantha is a brilliant web designer and fellow podcaster. She's the creative director of Lemon and the Sea. Yes, there's a fun story there. And she designs thoughtful websites for experts who want to make a positive first impression so they can get started with right fit clients much faster. Sounds great, right? She also has an incredible goal of reading 200 books this year, which I must hear more about. Welcome, Samantha.
Thank you. I'm excited.
I know. I'm stoked to have you here. So tell me more with this book goal. Have you ever gotten close to 200 books, or is this like a stretch goal for you?
I did 230 books last year.
230?
Yep. My goal last year was 200. And then the Christmas holidays hit and you're just like sitting at home and my son and my husband are home. So like I was just reading. So I hit 230 books last year.
That is incredible. And I think I've asked you this question before, but did you have a favorite last year?
I had a couple of 5-star reads. I can't really remember what they are at this point. If I don't put them in Goodreads, I would not remember what I have read because it's so many. But
yeah, same. I thought I was doing great with, I think I had like 57. I think that's about the number that I had last year. I really liked, did you read The Wishing Game?
No, I didn't.
That's a good one. Add it to 2024.
Yeah, I read books that I can either get from my library or I can get from the Kindle app because I don't want to pay for stuff.
I am the same. Like I've lucked into a couple of really incredible Audible situations where it's like $4 or $5. I also think there was a time last year I subscribed and I want to say I got like 3 or 4 months free. I don't exactly know how I did that. I think it was like a Black Friday thing. But I was like, yes, I do want this. But I'm same. Usually library. I'm still registered with the library in North Carolina, even though I'm in Connecticut. And I'm like, yes, I will borrow your books. That is awesome. Okay, so to kick us off, I like asking all of my guests this question. And yes, it's a loaded one. So which do you believe is most important for sales? SEO, storytelling, or social proof?
Ooh. I feel like for my business, it has been SEO because people have to find me. And then usually once they find me, because I'm pretty specialized, they're like, okay, now I know you're going to be a good fit.
So talk to us more about like what you mean when you say you're specialized. Say more.
So I specifically work in Squarespace and Kajabi, and then I work with a specific set of businesses. So people in the holistic health space and then the mental health space. So generally they're private practices. They have an in-person local business that they're bringing in. So I can speak really specifically to the types of businesses and then what they need on their websites because I kind of understand how that's different. We have lots of conversations about HIPAA compliance.
Yeah.
And once people hear like, oh, you know what that means and what it actually takes, they're like, okay, I know that you actually get what this is about more than somebody who just works in online business in general.
I don't think I actually knew that about you. So I'm really stoked, especially with my background in massage therapy. I've got a lot of, healthcare providers in my world. This is amazing. epiphany over here. So let's dive into more of like the topic for today. So sitemaps. What is a sitemap? Let's start there.
So I would say a sitemap is kind of the list of your pages on your website and how they're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
It's not anything pretty. It's just like literally a
No,
list.
they're very unattractive. If you ever
Yeah.
look at them, it's just like a bunch of words and numbers and letters.
Yeah. And I think people get confused because they're like, oh, I have to like make this list of pages. But for most of the platforms people are using, they're created automatically. Like this is not something you have to build out and figure out how to get the stuff to look correctly for Google and everything else.
Yeah, zero design required for
Yeah.
that, zero knowledge even required for that. And it's really funny. I always laugh at myself when I'm talking about sitemaps because I totally thought that they were really complicated. So I avoided it for the longest time. And then, Crystal was walking me through this on one of our podcast episodes, and it was as simple as just typing something into Google Search Console. I do want to get into that, but before we share that, why would someone need a sitemap?
So the biggest reason most of us need a sitemap is to let search engines know what pages are on your website and how they connect to each other.
Yeah, I mean, you probably say something very similar, but I like to say that we're writing and creating and designing for the humans and the robots. So you really have to have something that these robots, the search engines, can understand so they can display your stuff in front of the right person at the right time. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. They need to know what is actually on your website because who knows what they can do now, but they can't see what it looks
Yeah,
like. They're getting really smart.
it's creepy.
But you have to tell them, like, okay, I've got all these pages and they have to be able to read something.
Yeah, we have to give them some information. Again, you don't have to like create these things. It's as simple as punching in a string of stuff that we're going to tell you shortly. But you don't have to know anything. You have to know what to put where. And that goes back really to anything with SEO. It's not even so much of like, oh, I have to know the right keywords. A lot of my job and a lot of your job, when it comes to a little bit of this too, is testing our hypothesis in real time. It's experimentation. And I think that rightfully so, it makes some people very nervous. But if you're hiring the right providers, they're well informed, they're educated, they've already tested and tried some stuff, and they're coming to you with that knowledge, with that information. So you don't have to know really what to put, but the location and making sure that things get in the right spot, that is really key so that we can talk to the robots so that they can help us get in front of the right humans. And then the humans get to our websites and they see all the pretty stuff and they read things that make sense to them. So yeah.
Yeah. I was just talking to somebody and she's like, should I name this link the about or the team? And I was like, I told her, that's an experiment you have to conduct. And people don't
Mhm.
like that answer, but it's like, I don't know which one's going to resonate more with the people who come to your website until we try it out.
Yeah. And I even experimented with that myself. I think with both my about page and my services page, I used to have a keyword rich URL slug. It wasn't really making a difference. So I decided when I rewrote and revamped my website in 2023, I was like, I'm just going to do /about/services, call it a day. But I had to play around with that to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. People don't like that answer of like, well, it depends. So, all right, let me stop teasing around this thing. How do we get a sitemap? We need to go to a certain website and then we need to put something in. So, shall we talk about this?
Yes.
Yeah. So, where do we need to go and what do we need to plug in?
So what you have to do is look for Google Search Console. You just Google it. If you have a Google account, you already like have it. You just have to set it up. You submit your URL. It walks you through all the steps. And then in there, you have to submit your sitemap, which is just telling it where your sitemap is located on your website. And then it does everything from there.
Exactly. It does all the things. I'm usually better if I'm looking at things, but I'm pretty sure it's like sitemap.xml. I think
Yep.
that's the only thing that you need to put on the tail end. I either have this tutorial or have recorded and haven't posted this tutorial. So I will make sure to link to that once this episode goes live. But it's super simple. Like it is incredibly easy. I have actually in the last few months, I've probably submitted, 10 different sitemaps for clients just because it hasn't been done. And it's not the end of the world, but it helps increase your chances of being found faster and, landing in front of those right fit clients.
Yes. Well, and when I do like an audit of somebody's website and I go to kind of Google's page speed analytics, now it looks at a ton of stuff.
Mhm.
And one of those things is actually tells you if your sitemap has been submitted or not. So Google is clearly looking not just at what that says if you have it, but do you have it or not?
That's a really good point. I didn't actually know that it shows that in PageSpeed Insights, and that's one thing that I include in my SEO audit. So thank you for informing me of that today. I'm always learning stuff. But also when I'm running site audits for my clients, there is like one website that has been a pain in the tush because I keep trying to run it through Ubersuggest and it's not picking it up. I believe that there's a few different issues with the site. If you type in the website, you can get to the website. You can look at it. It's fully functional, but for whatever reason, it's not being pulled into Ubersuggest. So I have used Ahrefs to get the information for this one as well. But all of that is to say that's one of the things that I've seen flagged on there as well.
Yeah, it's such an easy thing.
Yeah.
What I've seen so many people do is they have their Search Console account set up and their website is submitted, but they haven't taken that step to actually type in sitemap.xml and submit it. And
Mhm.
so it's not going to do very much for you if you don't take that final step, but it is something additional like you have to navigate to and submit that's not simply setting up the account.
Yeah, it's one step further and you do have to know about it and you do have to look for it and then you do have to know what to type in. But like we said, it's really simple. And even when you log into, I always Google Search Console to get
Yeah.
in there. So I was really happy that you said that. But once you're in there on the left-hand side, there's actually a tab for sitemaps. So you
Hmm.
will see it and it's like very easy to get to. But this actually does segue nicely into the other point. I forgot that I had this intentionally planned out. I have run into a couple of times with clients where they have worked with other SEO professionals. They've had, be it a strategist or a web designer or another copywriter who has SEO knowledge and who claims to do SEO strategy, and yet the sitemap hasn't been submitted. I will say too, like this isn't something that I've always done in my career, but I at least let people know, hey, this is a step that you're going to need to take. So that was one thing that was really disappointing that I ran into a lot in Q4 of 2023, where I got into the back end of Google Search Console, Google Analytics, and I was seeing these things for my clients. And I'm like, wait a minute, we don't have a sitemap submitted here. It's a simple step. If you are in this world and you know SEO, you know that you have to have a sitemap submitted. So that's one thing I've seen. Has that been something that I know you, yeah, you're nodding.
Yeah, I had a client who came to me for some help with SEO after they had hired an SEO firm and paid them a lot of money. And that was one of the
Mhm.
things that hadn't been done. Like they were on Search Console, but the sitemap wasn't submitted.
Yeah, it's just disappointing. If I'm a business owner and I don't know anything about SEO and I hire an SEO professional, be it a firm, an agency, a strategist, what have you, I'm expecting that they're going to know some stuff and they're going to be able to guide me through things at the very least, like guide me through it. If I have to DIY, I'll do it. But if you're in the back end of my stuff and you notice that that's not there, you kind of should be doing that,
Yes.
especially when we're paying them lots and lots and lots of money each month.
Yes.
Usually these firms and agencies have you on a retainer. And I've talked about this before, but I've seen it upwards of $10,000 a month. And it's absolutely bananas to me that these firms are getting paid this, and yet something as simple as a sitemap being submitted isn't being done. Like, have there been any instances like that for you where you've seen things?
Yeah, I've had clients who have specifically worked with SEO firms that I've seen these things not done. And that's extra disappointing. I have seen people who've just worked with website designers, and a lot of
Hmm.
this isn't done. But I think that just depends on who you're working with, if they offer the SEO piece, because a lot of times if they're not submitting a sitemap, they're also not filling in all those SEO descriptions. And they've probably told you they're not going to do that, or it was something they just don't include and it's not part of their package.
Right, that's true too. Like, make sure that we're looking at deliverables to see what is included. And I would say that if someone is like intending to do anything SEO related, more than likely it's going to be in those deliverables. It's also probably going to be somewhere in their title, which is why I make sure to say SEO and case study copywriter, because I'm like, anything I touch is going to have SEO. So that's definitely something to look for, as well as in that list of deliverables. My brain is like, what could someone do if they're listening and they realize, oh no, I'm in the middle of a contract and something isn't being delivered, or I didn't check, or now this is a priority. So either it's not being done because it wasn't included, or it's not being done for who knows what reason, and it's supposed to be being done. Do you have anything to share about that? Any advice or tips or anything?
I mean, I think the best thing you can do is just reach out to whoever you're working with and ask them specific questions and just say, has my sitemap been submitted? Can you show me what SEO descriptions you added? I think when you can be specific, people are better able to answer your questions instead of saying, like, are you really working on my SEO? Like, because I'm sure they're doing something. It just may not be what you were expecting them to have done.
That's a good point. Yeah. So maybe you're entering into a contract with someone, or you're even just like vetting a service provider. There are definitely some things that we can go through these of like what you can ask, what you can look for. So let's start with like they're meeting someone, they're kind of doing that searching phase on Instagram or on Google or maybe even on TikTok. They're like looking for a provider. What are some things that they might see in a profile or in even like testimonials or on a web page to let them know, yes, there's going to be SEO done for you as part of this project? Okay, you get it. You know SEO is important, but no, you're not interested in learning another skill. Who has the time? But who are you supposed to trust with the task of getting SEO to work for you? Someone who won't ghost you mid-project or treat you like a dum-dum lollipop. Someone who actually wants to empower you and your team with all things SEO. Hi, yes, it's me, Brittany, and you are the person I created the SEO packet for. You're curious, you want to understand this thing better, but like only a little bit. You don't actually want to do the doing. This way, you get the key SEO stuff super fast, and you get support throughout and beyond the project. No more letting Google gift you the wrong SEO strategy. Time to put the right words in the right places and get found online by the right people. Find all the info you need below.
Yeah, I think if you're hiring an SEO specialist, they should be very clear that that's what they're doing, whether it's they're updating the website copy or if they're just doing the back end SEO. Like, there are different pieces of that people might be doing. They might be writing blog posts and then optimizing them for SEO. If you're looking for a website designer, it's probably going to be a little bit more buried in their process. So on my website, it lists that I include like the basic SEO setup, but that's not the primary thing that I do. So it's kind of just in the steps that I offer. It is a question I get a lot on sales calls because people know that it's important. It's also something that I talk about more on social media than I do on my website
Mm-hmm.
because it's just kind of conversational to say, like, here's a tip or here's a thing, rather than having like a whole section on my website designs thing that says, also, I do SEO, and this is all the technical things that you don't understand that are actually going to get done.
Yeah, I guess we could also have blogs available too. That might be another place to look, would be in the blog section to see if someone is talking about this. They are giving tips, they are sharing advice, they
Yeah.
are giving you, walkthroughs of different things. I definitely, like I said, I make sure that it's in my name. That's actually how a lot of people have found me on Instagram, because it says SEO and case study copywriter. SEO is in there. So
Hmm.
they find me. I'll be honest, I'm not the best with updating my Instagram like I used to be. I'm in stories, I'm there, I'm in my DMs, but I'm not pumping out content like I used to. It's a little bit freeing, but I'm also like, now that I'm talking about things, I'm like, well, that's not going to be on there. But still, I've had people even recently find me on Instagram, go and check my air quote old content that's like, I don't know, 8 or 9 months old. It's not that old, but they're still able to look through my profile and see, oh, she is talking about SEO. Oh, okay, she's giving this tip. Oh, okay. So they can kind of like verify that I know what I'm talking about and see some of the stuff that I'm going to help them with. That is, I agree with you. That's definitely something that comes up on sales calls or even in emails as people are vetting, different
Mm-hmm.
providers and trying to find the right one. There is a point that I want to make too with different types of SEO input or strategists or agencies or firms that you could be working with, be it someone who's in web design or in copywriting. There are different ways that people will give you the information. So I tend not to go in your website and need your login and things like that. I'm 98% of the time creating some deliverable for you, giving it to you. So either you as a solopreneur or you with a team are able to then go and implement that on your site, or you're hiring a web designer like Samantha and they're able to go and put this in your website. So things I'm talking about, like if you've ever heard of SEO titles or meta titles, whatever they're called on your website, meta descriptions, making sure that there are keyword rich URL slugs, like these are things that show up in all of my work, whether it's podcast notes or case studies, even like blog writing. So there are definitely pieces that I'm going to give you and then someone is going to plug them in your website. But then there are agencies who go in and they do this. Like Samantha, is in your website. She's going to be plugging these things in most likely. Is there ever a time where you don't? Or are you always plugging things in for people?
I feel like I almost always am. Sometimes it's just updating based on some of the changes that they've made.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, so I do have some copywriters that I work with, who I love, that include like, okay, this is the URL slug and this is the description and this is the title. And then I just copy and paste. Like all I'm doing is
Yeah.
transferring it over. And really, you're getting your best bang for your buck when you do that, because a copywriter who specializes in SEO is going to be a lot better than writing those things than I am when I'm just trying to like help out your business and I'm putting in the keywords based on the copy you've submitted to me. But I have had people who have very little, and I'm using the copy they've given me and my knowledge to put something in there so that they can start to grow. And then generally I'll say, like, these are the kind of the words that we used. Make sure you check them, see where
Mm-hmm.
you're ranking, see what's bringing to your website, and then you can make changes to it. Like we said, it's always testing to see what's actually going to work.
Yeah, you definitely want to be looking at that data. And I want to come back to that for sure. But the copywriter you described is like giving you all the stuff so you can just copy and paste. That is me. I am like,
Yeah.
let me make this as easy as possible for you. Plus, like you said, it helps me to, I've been in there, I've been writing the words, I've, been in there with the messaging. So if I can just take what I've been in the middle of and give you something that you can just copy paste and plug in on the back end, like I like hearing that you like that because in my mind, that works really well. Like I'm just like giving it to you on a silver platter and I'm just asking like, please make this look pretty and functional.
Yes. Yes. And if you're working with a website designer who isn't going to at least copy and paste it, then it is something you can do yourself. But I think that is a step that your website designer should do because they are already in the back end and they're going to know where all that is. So I would say if they're not willing to copy and paste some of that stuff in, you need to look for somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. And that's definitely something, again, that you would want to check on the front end as you're vetting these people. Like I have a client right now. She's hired me to do the case study copywriting. She's looking for a web designer to design the page. So she's obviously aware that like, okay, Brittany's going to be providing the copy. She's going to be providing the SEO strategy. I need to make sure with my web designer that that's something they can plug in while they're in the back end of
Mm-hmm.
my website. So that is definitely something you can really check at any point and verify at any point. Like Samantha mentioned, like it's very easy for you to go and plug it in. But if you've got a web designer, it's not that hard for them to just copy paste and plug it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. With someone coming in and like checking to make sure that their stuff is working or just like analyzing what's going on, what are some KPIs, those key performance indicators that we love talking about? I'm saying that in a funny voice because not everybody knows what that means or even what to look for when it comes to SEO. So, what could they be looking for?
What I tell my clients to look for, because it's generally pretty easy for them to understand, is they're looking at how many consultations they're getting scheduled or how many applications they're getting, like how many people are taking a step towards working with them. And are any of those people saying that they found you on search? So that's a
Mm-hmm.
really tangible way to say, okay, something in my search results is working. And then I also tell them to look either specifically in Search Console or if you're in Squarespace, they have a section under the analytics for this. You can see which keywords are actually getting people to your website. So not the ones you want to show up for, but which ones does your website show up for on search? And then are people clicking on it? And that's free, which is why I tell people to use that one. There are softwares that you can set up that will like track all of these specific keywords and where you rank and how many people click. But if you just want to get started, that is the best way to do it. Like in Search Console, you can, I don't know if it's queries, I think, and you can
Yeah.
see which words are bringing people to your website. My top ones are always words to describe your brand and then Squarespace button CSS. And like some of it has nothing to do with what I do anymore, but it's still bringing people to my website.
hmm
And then over time, I can see, okay, now I'm ranking more for like Squarespace stuff because that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I can track, okay, so many people saw my website when they searched for this many people clicked. And then I can say, okay, I've had so many inquiries and I can kind of see where does that come from and work backwards.
Yeah, exactly. I have a Squarespace website and I really like the ease of it. There's definitely things where it's like, it would be so much easier if blank could happen. But for the most part, it's been a solid web platform thing. I
Yes.
always never know what word to use. I like Squarespace is the point of it. But I really like them because, especially for the analytics, I love being able to go over there and it's easy to understand, it's easy to navigate. And there are still things that I am figuring out and finding like just about all the time. But that is one thing with the key terms, the keywords, key phrases, where I'm looking at them and I'm like, oh, that's getting people to come to my website. So the recent one, that was kind of the tone that I had, but it was also like, oh, that's kind of cool. SEO for massage therapists. I'm like, oh, that makes total sense because my website used to be entirely dedicated to massage therapy. Now it's entirely dedicated to SEO and case study copywriting. So I'm like, cool, let's just like marry the best of both worlds. But I haven't had that many massage therapists actually come to me and convert and want to work with me in like a paid capacity. But if they're getting to my website and they're getting like the SEO basics checklist or something like that, I am happy. I am good. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a fun thing to look at.
Yeah. And I think it's important because you and I have both had traffic from like stuff we talked about a long time ago that we don't even do. That's why it's so important to establish your website early and then just keep building it. Even as you change your niche, even as you change your service, you went from massage therapy to SEO copywriting, like, but we're always kind of building on that. And it's a long-term strategy and you never know where people are going to come from.
You really don't. It's the wildest thing. I will have people in my world for years, and then they'll just like pop up one day and be like, oh, hey, so I've been following you on this, and now I have this need. Can you help me with that? And I'm like, where have you been? Yes, of course I can help you. This is fascinating.
Yes.
Lurkers are the best. I love each and every one of you. This is amazing. Okay, so this has been a really cool conversation. Is there any other like last point, something you want to make sure that we say or share?
The one thing I have seen that I have been reminding everybody of lately is that if you are, especially if you're a local business and you see people locally, you need to have your location in multiple places on your website because that is key to getting the right people to find you. A lot of my clients are like only licensed in specific states, so it doesn't help them if they're licensed in California and somebody from Virginia finds them. So we want to make sure we're including our location. And Google really does consider that in the results that they're showing people, whether they include that or not. Like if I were to Google chiropractor, it's going to show me chiropractors located near me first, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to the ones that are so far away, because it's smart and it knows where I live and everything about me.
Again, mildly creepy, but also very helpful.
Yes.
That's a really good point. I will also throw in at whatever point in the, Q1 that this is popping into your holes in 2024, make sure that you have changed the year at the very bottom of your website. This is a soapbox that I'm going to stay on for a very long time. If we think about it, to me, like anytime that I can do something where it's a tiny little detail but shows that I care, that means something to someone. If I go to your website and I see that it says 2019, and yes, this has happened in the last week, That's just like, it's a tiny little thing. It takes, 5 seconds. I know that it takes some brain power in remembering to go and do it, but just take the next like 30 seconds and go and update that. All right. I'm off my soapbox. Samantha, where can people find you and connect with you online?
Yeah, so I am Lemon in the Sea pretty much anywhere. I'm on Instagram. I'm trying out TikTok for a little bit.
Ooh.
I have a podcast, which is Process to Profitability. The new season of that is going to come out sometime in Q1, but there's lots and lots of back episodes to listen to. So those are the best places: Instagram, TikTok, and my podcast.
I love that. I will make sure to link my interview over on your podcast. I'll make sure that that's below. And then is there maybe like, I don't know, a free or a paid thing that you want to tell people about?
So what I have been sending to people to lately is I have a website review series where I'm reviewing people's websites. They're like 15 minutes videos that are really practical as far as like SEO, but also design. So it can be helpful for people to watch. And that's at lemoninthesea.com/website review series.
I love that. I also really love your URL slug. It's so practical. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And for anyone listening or watching, make sure you follow, subscribe, share, tag us so we can keep the SEO party going. And we'll talk to you next time. That was really something, wasn't it? Let that really sink in and guide you toward being the answer to even more Googled questions. Thanks so much for joining me this episode. You are the reason this show exists and that it keeps growing. Thanks to all those follows and reviews. If you know someone who could benefit from what was shared, send it to them. We don't do shy around here. If you thought of clarifying or follow-up questions while listening, you know what to do. Say hi on Instagram. Check the show notes for all the things that were mentioned, and I'll talk to you soon, friend. Hey, it's B, and I have a major announcement. Blogging is not dead, but it might as well be if you don't have a strategy, because when there's no SEO strategy, your blogs don't help you get found online, don't pull in warm leads, and just kind of waste your time. Who wants that? Especially when you're already busy with a family to take care of and a business to run. That's exactly why I created this 10-day email course to show you how to write a blog with SEO. You get one email each day with a task that'll take you 10 to 30 minutes. There's even a live call included where you get to ask me all your questions. This is perfect for you if you've taken a blogging break and are ready to get back in it, or you've never blogged a day in your life, but everyone is telling you to. And you can totally send your team member through the course. The link is in the show notes. Can't wait to see you inside.